Welcome back to Let's Talk Careers. My name is Miss V, and I am excited to bring another incredible guest. Today, we are speaking with Pieter De Bruyn, who is the co-founder of Wing.Studio. Welcome to Let's Talk Careers, Pieter.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Super excited to have you here. You have an incredibly interesting career journey, and I can't wait to dive in deep. But before we go into the journey of where you are right now, I'd like to take you back to being a teenager. Watching this interview, maybe teachers, counselors, and students of young teenage ages, and they're really concerned about how do they make that choice. So when you were that young teenager, how did you make your first career choice?
Yes, thank you. It's a good and very interesting question because my mind was really everywhere and I wanted to become everything possible. And at the end of the day, like it's almost like because your mind is everywhere, you want to do everything possible. But then, unfortunately, at some stage, you need to choose something. You can only study one degree at one time. So at the end of the day, I went to go and study BSc Construction Management just because I like the whole idea of project management. And I thought that might be something that interests me. And I guess we will get later to the point where we will talk about where I'm not even doing that today.
Okay. All right. We'll see if we're not going to talk about that today. I know that you did go eventually you did choose engineering and property development, which was that focus that you told us. Why engineering? What made you firm up on that choice?
Yeah. So it's not really engineering itself. It's so I studied at the end of the day BSc, did an honors in quantity surveying, and that was so. First, I studied BSc Construction Management, finished it, and then my career kind of started to take off. And then the company that I was working at that moment was a quantity surveying company, very much into big construction plants and things like that. And they basically asked me, like, Peter, you're working at a construction QSing company. QS is quantity surveying company. We would like you to rather study that as well. Kind of made sense at that stage. It fit the picture. And I said, yes, okay, cool. I will go and study that as well. So then that was degree number 2. And the reason why I'm saying that is, again, we will see at the end, like I'm not doing that today.
Okay. So when you were in engineering, when you were studying engineering, what were some of the skills that you think you connected really well to as a teenager? And what were some of the skills that you thought, nobody told me it would be like this?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the skills was communication, and that's something that a lot of people think communication is to talk, and communication is not only to talk, but it's also to listen. And that's one of the skills that we realize today is people don't focus on that a lot. And then also people management and interaction with people. How do you deal with people's feelings? How do you deal with people's emotions? And that's something that I started to realize. You build this huge plant, like a billions of dollars of brick and mortar, but at the end of the day, you work with people around you with the emotions, and also not only with the emotions at work, but keep in mind that when you come from home, you bring your emotions with. You don't stop there. And then you start to realize that you need to deal with people with their feelings coming from home and on the job site. And that's something that I think people need to think a little bit more about. And schools don't really teach that, I think.
That's very interesting that you brought that up because for an engineering student, often we hear students need maths, they need physics, and those are the subjects that they need to get into those programs. But you're saying it's more than that. You need to be able to communicate. And that, would you say that that's something that an engineer should gain? Should they be taking that course if they have it in their schools, or should they just wait until they get to the job to learn that skill?
Yeah. For sure, they need to do it as soon as they can. Think about the way that my thinking really progressed so much over the past few years, where the change of thinking was, we can all go and study engineering. That's fine. But at the end of the day, we all have the same piece of paper. Now, what is going to make me different from the guy next to me? What's going to make me different is if I can have all those transferable skills. And if I can have those transferable skills and start to master it as soon as I can, then I can be of more value to my employer and even to more value to myself. Because now I start to realize, oh, okay, there's something like communication. And then I realize, oh, it's not only about talking, it's also about listening. Now I start to listen to my team members. And now I start to identify their needs and what they are looking for. And now I can be a better leader. And I can start to add value to my team members and to my employer.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go to your degrees. You've got quite a few to talk about. And then we're going to talk about what you are doing right now. So without any particular rank or privilege, I'm just going to go through the list that we have. You did a Bachelor of Science in Construction Management. You did a Bachelor of Science in Quantity Surveying. And you did a certificate in Portuguese language. You did a Bachelor of Law. And then you did your Master's in Quantity Surveying. Where did Portuguese come from? That's my first question. And then why law? What made you decide to go back and do another bachelor's? Because you had already done two.
Yeah.
So now you decided to do that third, and you decided to learn Portuguese. So tell us that story.
Yes. So the Portuguese was really to get a bigger range. Again, actually, if you think about it, it's communication. But the reason for that was, at that stage, I was based in South Africa, and the whole of Africa is kind of like a west and the east of Africa. The one side is predominantly Portuguese speaking, and then on the other side is French speaking. And at some stage, I was working in Angola, where they speak a lot of Portuguese. So I realized, but if I can speak Portuguese, then that will help me to reach more people in my construction. And then I already started to study law. So my thinking was, if I go more into construction law, I can reach more people. And, that was my career goal. So then on the law side, so as I was working a lot with construction, and then a lot of contracts came up, arbitrations, mediations, these type of things. But I was always sitting on the side of the construction side. And then we started to deal with lawyers, and I realized, wow, but these lawyers, actually, they've got a very interesting job. I kind of like that more. And I don't have a problem with studying. So I thought, well, I'll just study a law degree because I want to know what they know. And I also realized, if you only have your construction side, you don't understand necessarily the legal side of it. But if you're only a lawyer, then you don't understand the construction side of things, the technical side. So I thought, okay, but I can make myself more marketable if I can have both. And I'm really an advocate for combining qualifications, because that makes you just much more marketable. But nowadays, you realize that, yes, you can study all these things, but there are, I don't want to say shorter routes, but there's other things that employers are looking for nowadays, like the transferable skills and EQ and those type of things.
Wow. Okay, Pieter, tell us how you went from those degrees to being a co-founder for Wing.Studio. What is Wing.Studio?
Okay. So Wing.Studio, in very short, is like a LinkedIn for young people. So what we do is we say it's an online social media platform where young people build a credible profile, replacing the old style CV. Now, we don't say throw away the CV immediately, but we really believe in the future, a CV will be absolute, like really, like it like 2,000 years and we still use a piece of paper, just in a different format. So, so we say, okay, if you can build up a skills profile where you can really go and show your employer the whole picture, who you really are, then we believe it's just much better than a CV where you just claim a bunch of stuff. I claim that I'm a team player and a hard worker. Everyone is saying that on their CV. But we said, okay, what about if we can create a platform where I can first show the evidence of what I'm claiming, and then after that, with a photo or video, and then after that, explain what happens here. So I can have a picture or video of me playing football, and now I can put that on Wing.Studio, and then I can say, here it is, I'm playing football. Therefore, I'm a team player and a hard worker, and I can get people to verify this post, give it even more credibility. So that's in very short what it is. And then, of course, we link you, you as the user, we link you with opportunities. Now, these opportunities can be anything to help you to upskill. And then when you upskill with all these opportunities, you learn more stuff. You come back and you post it. So you build your skills profile, and we link you up with the next opportunity. And so the cycle goes on and on and on, up until you get to a point where you say, okay, I feel comfortable now. I can go and apply for a job. And then we link you with an employer. And the whole idea of Wing.Studio at the end of the day is to tackle the whole issue of youth unemployment, which is something huge all over the world.
So, in listening to you tell me this story, I'm thinking of a career theory called planned happenstance. And in that theory, it's opportunities come to the individual and the individual says yes. Would you say that that's really the journey from all of those incredible degrees to being a co-founder at Wing.Studio?
I really believe nothing happens by chance. There's reasons, and I don't even know all the reason up to today. And I guess some of it will come in the future. But I've learned so much along the way. I've met so many people along the way. So my thinking is really to whatever you do more of it. Do what you like to do. Do what makes you happy. And then your path will kind of like carve itself. But just don't stop and do nothing. If you do nothing, nothing will happen. I studied all these things. I was 20 years in the corporate world. And at some stage, I realized that after studying all these things, I was just not achieving what I wanted to achieve. I wasn't happy in what I was doing, and I realized, but I want to do something totally different. I want to change more lives, and it's almost like my corporate world restricted me from that. Now, I'm not saying if someone else wants to be in the corporate world, there's something wrong with it. Everyone has a different path. Mine was, I felt that I can do much more. So then I was thinking, okay, how can I possibly do this? And my mind started to go like possibilities. And then a few things happened in like a very short time that I said that kind of like started to bring this whole idea of Wing.Studio together. And starting with different ideas, small little snippets in my life. And then what happened was, with all these little snippets in my life, I bumped into my co-founder, also a South African guy, and Willie Maritz. And we started to brainstorm together, like, how can this possibly look like? And then we kind of started to put all of this together. And that was basically how Wing.Studio was born. Yeah, so I think that's about it.
That's really interesting. And why a platform like Wing.Studio? Why a LinkedIn for the youth? What made you think that this was something young people needed?
Well, we realized that youth unemployment all over the world is a major issue. Me, coming from South Africa, South Africa's youth unemployment is currently sitting on 65%. And I realized, okay, if it's sitting on 65%, it's a huge issue there. Started to research more. Wow, it's also a problem in the world. Then I started to backtrack or back engineer, and I say to myself, a lot of the companies say they want a fresh graduate, but with 5 years experience. Where do you want me to get that? And then we started to brainstorm a little bit more, and we say, but wait a little bit. Let's take, just for example, a coder, a 17-year-old coder. That guy can code. He can code very well, and he's doing it for the past 3 years. So maybe the employer asking for 3 years experience, he actually has that, but he doesn't have any platform where he can showcase that. So we say, what about we can make a platform where he can showcase everything that he can do? And you can say that on a CV, but you cannot show it on a CV. And that was the reason for a platform where they can showcase what they can do.
Okay, Pieter. So this is the part of our conversation where I'm looking at you and I'm thinking about a young person who would come into my office and look at your incredible degrees and say to me, Miss V, why did he do so many degrees? What is this really telling me? And I'm looking at this and I'm smiling because I advocate for intentional learning, but I also advocate for lifelong learning, and that we don't just do one degree. We don't have to limit that. Would you say that you went from one to another because you were looking for something, or would you say that you were doing all of these because you just really love learning and you wanted to keep going?
Mm-hmm. I think I almost want to say I was looking for happiness. I thought the next thing is going to make me happy. I studied it, and then it's like, oh, I think, yes, this is very close, but maybe the next degree, then I will have what I was looking for. So I kept on studying, and even after all of that, I realized, but this is not making me happy. So, um, so I think you should have a clear vision of what you really chase. Don't study for the sake of studying. Study to get to that specific goal. And if you don't have that clarity of exactly where you want to go to, rather find out, like get clarity on what you want to achieve before you commit for a 3-year degree or 4 years, and then you realize after that time, this is not really what I was thinking that this would be.
And you know what I really appreciate about Wing.Studio, when we met and you were telling me all about it, I think the whole process of a young person adding details and events or activities or any of those things gives them an opportunity to really start to take a moment and think, oh, wow, I really enjoyed doing that. And then having a conversation with a careers practitioner like myself, we're then able to tap in and say, hey, did you know those skills were 1, 2, 3? And, do you enjoy doing that? Because I met this spotlight speaker who did those things, and this was that type of career. I think that's really, really exciting. If you could rewind time and Wing.Studio existed at your time, do you believe that you would have done those degrees, or do you think you would have found that one or maybe none and just enjoyed what you were doing?
Yes, for sure. If I had that at, let's say 18, 19, 20, I don't think I would have studied construction or law, anything like that. I realized that in the meantime, I did a lot of assessments and things like that to see where's my strengths. And my strength is not really sitting in law and construction and all these things. So now I realize my strengths are sitting in a totally different area. I might have done something totally different. And then, so I really believe if Wing.Studio was there before, like you 100% say, like, if you're going to keep on posting on Wing.Studio, and that is what we want from the young people, go to your profile and see what you have posted in the past few weeks or months, and you will start to see a pattern coming up. And then you will realize, wow, look at all the time that I spent on something specific, which you didn't even realize you spent time on it. And also, What's the feelings that pop up while you go through all these posts? And you will start to realize, wow, that was actually a nice event, or that was a nice feeling. And then you will start to realize what your interests are really.
Okay, let's now go to your role as co-founder. What's it like to go from being a startup to an international company? I know that young people are keen to join the world of entrepreneurship, but I'm very confident in thinking that they don't really understand what's required behind the scenes. It kind of looks amazing, but the work and effort that goes behind those scenes, what would you say were your top skills to, first of all, take the startup and get it started? And then how did you make it an international company?
My top skills that I used was ideation, to come up with ideas and things like that, to be futuristic, connectedness, putting all the dots together. Now, something very important is identify your own strengths. And then when you identify these strengths, no one is in the entrepreneurship world is a lone ranger. You cannot do it all by yourself. So I realized these things, and then I started to reach out for someone that has the vision with me, shared vision, someone who can help me with their strengths. And at that stage, it was kind of like snippets of ideas. And then I met my business partner, Willie Maritz, who has a lot of experience in online learning, who has a lot of experience in entrepreneurship and all these things. And we collaborated, we brainstormed, and we really started to shape all these little snippets. And of course, with all his experience, we could put what is today Wing.Studio. Back then, it was not really Wing.Studio yet. It was just snippets of ideas. So that is the thing that I would say to young people, like, don't go and think you can. Some people are good. And the interesting thing is, you can look at someone like, let's say, Steve Jobs of Apple. You can look at Bill Gates and Richard Branson. Yes, they are that one person that you associate with all these brands, but they are not alone. They've got a huge team around them. And you must realize, as an entrepreneur, you need to have a team around you. You are not alone. And then you need to work as a team with the same vision. And that is what we managed to do in Wing.Studio, where we are 3 co-founders. And we know each other's strengths, and we put our heads together, and we've got the same vision, but putting all the strengths together to build up this company.
Amazing. Okay, as we're bringing this to a wrap, what would you say are your top tips for a young person just starting off on planning and discovering what they want to do?
I would say, when you come up with an idea, play around with the idea and play around, put the ideas on the table, and then chew on it over time. Like, take almost like one idea at a time. Like, if you have only one idea, play around with it. See the pros and the cons and all these things. If you have different ideas, put all of them on the table and see which one stays there, which one makes the most sense. Then something else. Don't let anyone discourage you on, no, that's a stupid idea. Nothing is a stupid idea. The only thing is, maybe you just didn't round it off yet. So talk to your friends and your family, and and play around with the different ideas. Don't shoot just the idea down. That is where great ideas are born. And then after that, start to plan around that. See if it makes sense. Do your market research. That's very important. Do your market research. Sometimes you come up with an idea, but actually it already exists. Don't put money into an idea, and then after you've put in a lot of money and time, then you realize exactly the same thing already exists. Or if it already exists, see how you can improve it. Don't just say, well, it already exists. There's a lot of computer companies out there, but there are different ones. Some of them are better than other ones. So see if it's an idea that already exists, see how you can make it better, how you can be different in the market. I think that's in very short few tips.
No, and I think that's absolutely great. Okay, Peter, I mean, you have an incredible CV yourself, and I think that I'm taking away the love of learning, the idea of it's okay to keep going and keep trying something new. I really appreciate how you brought in communication as an engineer, because that's definitely not something that young people are even thinking about. And it really is a competitive field, and some universities require an interview. So knowing that little nugget, I think, will help young people. And then, of course, learning that language, I think, is very, very important, especially in an international world that we live in. And I know I can hear language teachers smiling because they're always encouraging young people to think about a language as they grow older. Thank you for being here with us today, Peter, and for sharing your career journey. That brings us right to the end of another incredible conversation. Today we were speaking with Pieter De Bruyn, who is the co-founder of Wing.Studio. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you at my next Let's Talk Careers with Miss V.